Nigeria's economy today, touching base with all you need to know.
Hello and welcome to Nigeria's Economy Today, coming to you from Super Screen Television in Lagos. I am your anchorman, Tunde Odeyemi, thanking you for finding time to join us on the program. And in today's episode, we shall be taking a look at the impact of COVID-19 on the Nigerian aviation sector. And of course, we shall also look at the recent 4 final aircraft accidents released by the Accident Investigation Bureau of the aviation sector. These and many more will come your way after this time out. Thank you for joining us on the program. It's still Nigeria's Economy Today. Perhaps one of the sector of the economy that was faced with the impact of COVID-19 more than any other sector is the aviation sector. The local flights have resumed operation middle of this month. The international flights are yet to resume. How is the aviation sector faring? And in another development, the Accident Investigation Bureau of the sector also released 4 final aircraft accidents reports and recommendations for safety of our aircraft. What are the implications of these reports on the aviation industry? To lead in this conversation is an aviation editor of the New Telegraph newspaper, Mr. Wole Shadare. Mr. Wole Shadare, you are welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, Mr. Wole Shadare, thank you for finding time to join us on this show. Yes, local flights have resumed operation middle of this month, I think on the 15th of July or thereabout. The international flights is yet to resume. Now, what do you think we have felt do you think what is the impact of COVID-19 on the contribution of the aviation sector to the Nigerian GDP?
Thank you so much for these questions. You really loaded them.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for them because these are questions that have really agitated the minds of Nigerians, not only aviators. But if you look at it, the airspace was closed to both international and domestic air travel on March 23rd, 2020, when the country started, or the whole world was faced with the reality of COVID-19 pandemic. And if we look at how COVID-19, the index case we had was through aviation. And like every other country, or most countries of the world, aviation helped to quicken the spread of COVID-19. And what the whole world did, which Nigeria was also a part of, was to shut down the airspace because we believed that this disease was imported into Nigeria from abroad. And at that period, it was very, very serious in Spain, Italy, and the United States. But somehow, these two countries in Europe, Spain and Italy, were able to curtail the spread of COVID, while that of America is spiraling. So even if you look at that period, the government was heavily condemned for not closing the airspace when they should have done so. And were forced to close, the federal government was forced to close the airspace March 23rd, 2020.
Okay.
After that, for 2-3 months, there was nothing like air travel. The whole country was grounded, and rightly so, because government was faced with the reality of trying to contain the spread of COVID-19. Air travel was shut for scheduled flight operations.
Okay.
What we now had was evacuation flights, because a lot of citizens all over the world, America, British, Germans, Arabs, were stranded all over the world because it was something that happened suddenly. The government had to take that action. So it was a sudden action for an action. A lot of people were trapped in Nigeria, while Nigerians were also trapped in so many parts of the world. So government now allowed only evacuation flight for people who wanted to be with their families, for humanitarian, for drugs, for equipment, medical equipment, and agricultural produce. So that was the problem we had. And if you look at the International Air Transport Association reports in the face of the pandemic, we call them IATA. IATA is the clearinghouse for global airlines. They've been doing tremendous job. They have a way of reconciling airlines expenses, debts, and revenue that should come to them. there's a technology they use and which has worked perfectly. And they estimated that African country will lose, if I remember vividly, over 30 billion dollars, African Airlines. And they estimated that Nigerian aviation industry will lose about, I can't remember, about 500 and something million dollars to pandemic. That was the projection for 2 months. I'm sure that that projection would have gone up. Just yesterday, they met in Geneva via virtual communication that African Airlines alone will lose about $20 billion to by the time we are done with pandemic. African Airlines, not African economies, but African Airlines. Then if you bring it down to Nigeria, just a few weeks ago, the Minister of Aviation, Senator Hadi Sirika, said the aviation industry as a whole was losing about 27 billion naira monthly, conservatively, because it could be more than that. If we need to look at all the sectors of the aviation industry, all the department, that could be more, but conservatively, 27 billion naira. That's humongous. Whatever the naira denomination to dollar would have been, 27 billion naira is quite huge. For 3 months, or for 4 months and still counting, if we multiply 27 in 4 places, we can roughly do the calculation. I think we should be talking
about 5 months now.
5 months.
Including July. July is about rounding up.
Exactly. So we know that the country would have lost almost 100 or close to 200 billion naira to this pandemic, and we are still counting. And got so good, the government waded into it and brought out a lot of protocols to guide us into how we are going to behave in what we call the new normal.
Okay.
Life for now may not be the same again, because I traveled from Abuja to Lagos to Abuja and Abuja back just 2 days ago. And inside the aircraft, you could see what we went through. Very good for the sector, because people had to put on their face mask. People need to no more in-flight meals. That has been cancelled for now, and I'm sure it may not even come back again. So if you're traveling from Lagos to Abuja, 1 hour trip, you may never have any meal.
As long as the COVID-19 persists.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, and if you are coming out of the aircraft, if immediately the aircraft lands, what we normally had before, that people will want to rush out to get out of the aircraft or to get into the aircraft, now has to be done row by row. So, which takes much longer period. Then if also, before you go into the terminal, there's a mark on the floor where you need to give 6 meters distance with the next person behind you. So you look at things that we may never go back to pre-COVID time. Things have changed, and that's why I say the new normal. So if you put the aggregates of all these things we have lost, we are still counting. Yes, because yes, domestic airlines have resumed.
Yes.
But the resumption is good because people can move from point A to point B. But you look at the load factor, the capacity of the number of passengers they are taking, they are actually running at a loss, especially for people who are using bigger airplanes. Because before, when you used to have like 80, 100, 120 passengers. The only time you have something close to that is in the morning when people are rushing. But after that, in the morning and in the evening, when they want to come back. But after that morning flight, after that 7 o'clock flight or 8 o'clock flight, there's a lull in activity. Most times they go with 20 passengers. That 20 passengers for a Boeing 737 cannot even buy your fuel. If you want to go to Abuja, Lagos to Abuja in a Boeing 737, it will take you like 3,500 liters of aviation fuel.
Wow.
Then aviation fuel per liter is about 210 naira per liter in Lagos and 220 naira per liter in Abuja. Then when you multiply that, you find out that it costs about maybe 800 or 900 to fuel your aircraft. That fuel guzzling aircraft from Lagos to Abuja and back at close to 1 million naira.
Okay, let me pause you there, Mr. Shadare.
Okay.
You have rightly said that the estimated loss now is about $135 billion.
No.
For 5 months.
No, naira.
Naira, okay.
Yeah,
naira now. 135 billion naira for the 5 months.
Yes.
That is huge.
Huge.
That is not even considering the fact that some people may have lost their jobs.
Oh, yes, yes. I was going there before you...
Now, before you take that one,
okay.
This other one, what is the situation like at the airport? Are the aircraft owners willing to put their aircrafts on the air? Are they willing to do this, knowing fully well that they may not even make the expected profit?
Yeah.
Are people knowing fully well that they are going to spend so many hours at the airport willing to travel by aircraft? I want you to look at that for us.
Thank you very much. If you look at it now, that is why we are calling for collaboration. Okay. The operators need to collaborate. But you find out that in Nigeria, we don't always like to partner. It doesn't make sense. I go to Abuja, you go to Abuja, you have 20 passengers or 30 passengers, I have 30 passengers. We can't even make up to 50 passengers for us to begin to have something that looks like a break-even. Yes. So why don't you come and say, okay, airline A, I have 20 passengers, you have 30 passengers, the other man has 30 or 40 passengers. Why don't we pull them together in one aircraft in what we call co-share in other areas, in other parts of the world, or interlining? What they do, what I mean by that co-share is that if I'm traveling to, let's say, Singapore, for instance, I bought a ticket. I don't know if it's proper to mention the airline. Okay, airline B.
Airline B, yes.
Yes, so I bought the ticket of airline B going to Singapore. That airline B is not going to Singapore. It maybe terminates in Frankfurt or in Paris. But because he has agreement, interline agreement with airline C, who goes beyond Paris, he will now put me in that airline C to go.
I'm getting you.
He is not flying, but he has made money.
Exactly.
So he will get certain percentage for giving me those passengers. I've made money. Whatever the percentage is good, because I've not used my aircraft, I've not burned my fuel, there's no wear and tear on my aircraft. So he's making money when he's not even flying. The same thing happens to that airline C. Any points that is going beyond where those passengers have bought their ticket, it will say, okay, you take this aircraft, you take this passenger to that destination. I've made money. So they need to come together to begin to, look for ways to survive. Let me also shock you. If care is not taken, we may not even have, we may have just 2 airlines before January. Some of them may be insolvent before that time. The signs are there. I won't mention their name because of litigation. So if you now look at that, you begin to look at the economics of the airline. Are they applying the right economics? The answer is no. In Nigeria, everybody wants to be the CEO, the chairman of an airline. I would rather be a manager or at a middle level position of a thriving company than the chairman of a big company that is dying.
It's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. So that also brings me to the issue of salaries. Okay. I think you mentioned that. Yes. All over the world, airlines are even laying off staff. They follow them. They ask them, okay, we are not making money. There's no way we can pay you your full salary. Some as high as 50%, some as high as 60, 70%, depending on the negotiation between the workers and the airlines. And the workers also understood the situation that these people have not made money. These people have not earned revenue. They are even trying to pay us. Then we go into the aviation industry, the sector. Until yesterday, federal government agencies have paid their workers full salary, except Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria. And that was expected because 2 months ago, FAN warned that they have not been able to make money. And how do they make money? They make money from the airlines. Airlines that come in, they make money from there. If you travel, there's a percentage money they deduct from airlines through the airlines and remit to all the agencies. They've not made money. Even for the July salary, the Nigeria Airspace Management Agency had to borrow money, about 1.3 billion naira, to pay their workers.
Wow.
So, without interest, because if you don't pay them, they will cause problem and they may not understand it. We all know federal workers have a kind of, you can't blame them, entitlement syndrome. So they don't want to know where the money is coming from. Pay us, unlike private sector. The private sector will not be even want to talk to you. They will just tell you this is the position. If you want to take it, fine. If you don't want to take it, you leave it. So, but they believe that working for federal government, there's job security and there shouldn't be any reason for them to owe salary. So all these have catalytic effects on the aviation industry and other sectors that are closely related to them. So if you're looking at what the aviation industry has lost to the GDP, already the aviation industry contributes just about 1 or 2%. No, let me say about 4% to the GDP.
Yes.
So now, I find it difficult to even know the percentage because that 3-4% is very, very small. It could also be big depending if you look at it very well, but it's very small. Now that we have issues, I really don't know what that sector has contributed in terms of revenue. That is not even enough to do some of the things they need to do internally, not to talk of how to pay their salary. And if you look at FAN, they have more than 12,000, close to that. Staff, yes, because we have more than 21, about 24 airports in Nigeria. And each of the airports, some are viable, many of them are not viable. The only viable airports we have are Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, and Kano. All others, what they get from these 4 airports is what they use in taking care of other airports. And if you also look at it, most states government build airport. After building it, it's just a conduit for them to siphon money. When they finish building and they've made their money, they just hand them over to FAN, federal government. And whether you like it or not, the federal government will keep them going.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shadare. There is no doubt the COVID-19 is being felt so much in the aviation sector. And we have understood the fact that more than $100 million have been lost in the last 5 months. Many people have lost their jobs. We will continue the discussion on the impact of COVID-19 in the Nigerian aviation sector after this short break. We'll quickly go on a short break. When we come back, we'll continue with the discussion. Thank you for joining us on the program. It's still Nigerians' economy today, and we are discussing Nigerians' aviation sector. I still have the aviation editor, Mr. Wole Shadare, with me in the studio, but I want to call on our viewers to join us in the conversation by calling on the numbers that you see on the screen of your television. You can join us to make a comment or ask a question. Mr. Shadare is still very much available in the studio to answer your question and to respond to your comments. Yeah, recently, the Accident Investigation Bureau, AIB, released 4 additional final reports on accidents and 9 safety recommendations, making a total of 51 final reports and 187 safety recommendations since 2007. 2007.
Yeah.
Now, what is the implications of these reports and these recommendations to air safety in Nigeria and the rest of the world?
Thank you. Accident reports are not written to indict anybody, but what it does essentially is that it's a painful thing when we have plane crash or plane crashes anywhere in the world. And when they happen, because the way aircraft are built, they are built with the highest level of safety. As a matter of fact, an aircraft has so many safety devices that anytime there's an incident or anytime an accident is about to happen, they have the crew have opportunity to trigger every safety device or devices on the airplane. But when accidents happen, people begin to wonder what could have happened. Why did it happen? And they also need those reports for them to look at it and say, okay, this is what went wrong, this is what went wrong, and be able and send this report not only to the aircraft manufacturers but to the aviation regulatory body on what to do to ensure that it does not happen again. Like I said, 70% of accidents are caused by human factor, human errors. A lot of things happen in the cockpit, the pilot who is supposed to do something and he didn't do that, and that could really lead to accident. If you look at the aircraft, the way the aircraft are built, you accept something fundamentally goes wrong, they are very safe and they are fastest. So most of these accidents are caused by human factor, like I said. So on Tuesday, the Accident Investigation Bureau released 4 additional reports, final reports, because anytime there's an accident, the first thing they do is to issue preliminary report. They investigate, but it's not the final. So they tell you, okay, it happened so time. These are the things we suspect. And after that, so because they have to follow the regulation as given by International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO. So on Tuesday, the AIB has done so well. When I say it has done so well, it has done so well in the sense that before now, accident reports will be on the shelf for so many years. It became so bad that those reports are never released to the public, why the airlines that are involved in the accident may have folded up. So they will not be able to use those reports to correct whatever defects the investigators must have found. So on Tuesday, they released 4 additional reports. But the most striking of the reports was the one involving the vice president, which happened in Kaba last year, February 2nd, 2019. And we thank God that the vice president came out of that unhurt, and all of his aides and all occupants of that aircraft, that helicopter owned by Cavatin Helicopter. But if you look at the report, if you study it very well, I don't know if you have the report, what really struck me there was the causa factor. When we say causa factor, things that could have caused the incident or accident was the fact that the crew, especially the pilots, were indicted in that report that they lacked technical capability to land an aircraft or helicopter in a situation like that. Then there's also what we call crew resource management, that they need to undergo it. It's an in-house thing for airlines, that they also do not have, in that report, that they also do not have good safety management in that airline, cavorting. And that speaks volume, because cavorting is one of the biggest oil and gas, that service oil and gas sector very well. They operate smaller aircraft and helicopter. Their major customers are, they go to the escravos, to the reefs, help them. And most of their customers are oil people, the very wealthy people. So it's really baffled me that the airline never had that good, not that they are not good, but enough safety safety procedure. Yes, in there. So it was very, very indicting and not a very good one. What it means by safety, crew resource management is that, and crew resource management most times lead to accident. There was an accident that happened, I really can't remember the airline now. The pilot and the co-pilots were arguing. The pilot was saying the wrong thing, and the co-pilot knew that he was saying the wrong thing, but he was his boss. He felt he was more knowledgeable. Instead of telling the captain that, no, this
you are going the wrong way.
They started arguing. And when your operations are not coordinated, it calls for disaster. So for the vice president's helicopter that crashed in Kaba, they also gave some of the reasons that happened. The aircraft landed on a sandy
area,
field,
dusty area.
So there was a police helicopter that landed first, that took off first. So the helicopter was coming and it blew the dust up in what they call brownouts. So the pilot couldn't see very well. So what he would have done was to, take off again, or abort that landing. He didn't. He thought he had reached the ground, not knowing that. It's just like if you're walking down a staircase and you didn't know that you need to take it gradually to descend, and there's a way you just step on you feel like as if you're going to fall down. So he thought he had already touched ground, or about to touch ground. So he dropped the aircraft and the whole thing spinned. He couldn't see. So in that situation, I think AIB felt the pilot could have been more careful. We should have done what was expected of him to have done. And that is why they say they lack the technique to land in such area. Well, what they could have done also was that the airline could have called the fire service to come and water the place to ensure that, in a dusty area.
Okay, that's before landing.
Before landing, so that there won't be dust, and the dust will not envelope the atmosphere. But they didn't do that, and we thank God. They also released three, those of Aero that happened, and one other, some others that I can't really remember now. But the one that struck everybody was that of the vice president. Again,
Augusta Westland helicopter.
Helicopter.
Because it involves the vice president,
of
course.
President, it became a very big news. Anywhere in the world, crash, even an incident raises a lot of concern, because people want to know what really happened to the aircraft. Could it be pilot error? Could it be technical? Look at the case of Boeing 737, Ethiopian one that crashed last year. Was it last year? I think, yeah, last year also. That one was not the pilot's error. That one was a problem with the equipment. And that aircraft is the fastest selling aircraft in the world. But what happened? It had to be grounded. They needed to do a report. The report is out, and it was discovered that there's a technical problem with that aircraft. So they grounded that aircraft aircraft type all over the world, and they are still working on how to see whether they will bring them to service.
Okay, Mr. Shadare, it's a good thing that Accident Investigation Bureau is releasing these reports. At least it will assist in preventing future occurrence.
Yes.
Now, talking about technical capabilities now,
Yes.
what can the regulators of the aviation industry do better or do differently? You know, when we talk about technical capability, you are supposed to you have the 100% capability before you can be given that responsibility.
Yes.
Now, talking about that, what can the regulators do differently or do better to avert accident in future?
Thank you very much. You know, it's very easy to take a horse to the stream, but you can't force that horse to drink from the stream, even though you have the responsibility of ensuring that he drinks.
Yes.
Because we are talking about safety. We are not talking of a horse now. The NCA will look at the books. Do they have this? Do they have that? But you also find out that they're human. They make little errors which can be very, very costly. But I think they must have, in that recommendation, AIB recommended that NCA should ensure that defect, those things that they found with the airline must be quickly corrected.
Okay.
Must be quickly corrected. If after a while they didn't do that, NCA has the power, is vested with that power to grant, to suspend, or withdraw an airline's license if you don't comply with that, because there's no parking space there.
Yes.
So if anything happens, you can have problem with your car. You can decide to, let me just park it by the roadside and fix it. But up there, there's no parking space. And if care is not taken, precious souls will be lost due to carelessness, due to human error or human factor, or even due to equipment too.
Okay, I understand that. Let me take you up on the other one now.
Okay.
Is there any hope for the proposed national carrier? I mean, before the administration of Buhari runs out, is there any hope for a national carrier at all?
That's a tough question you've asked me. This is one question that has made friends to look into each other's eyes, abuse each other, and not talk to each other. Because when it comes to issue of national carrier, Nigerians are very emotional about that.
Okay.
Maybe for and against. If you ask me, personally, I think having a national carrier is very desirable. It has its own advantages, so many advantages. Likewise, it has its own demerits if we do not handle it the way it is handled in other climes. And that is why a lot of people have said, don't let government run it. Why don't it be private sector driven? The truth of the matter is that government in Nigeria does not run any enterprise very well. So, and that is why I'm an advocate of private sector driven economy, because they put their money there and they will not allow it to fail. But giving it to government and you allow government to run it 100% is just like what happened to Nigeria Airways. We're still going to have that problem. But if it is private sector driven and you throw it open, you can buy shares there, I can buy shares there. If I do, I will not want anything to happen to it. But if it's solely run and financed by government, that tendency, there's this tendency with Nigerians that anything government is nobody's property. But if it's private sector driven, I'm telling you, maybe government will just own like 10% or 5% to give it that protection. Look at British Airways. Yes, it's not a national carrier, British Airways is a flag carrier, but if you touch
Is it
British
privately
Airways,
driven?
yeah, yes, privately driven, but it has government backing.
Okay.
If you touch British Airways, the British government will come with all its machinery and descend on you, because they look at how many people that airline employ, the revenue, and it represents British. Everything they do there represent British. And airline business goes beyond just having an airline. You can use it to make a lot of statements. You can use it to anywhere they say they know this Nigeria. It gives a kind of pride to people.
The pride of the nation.
Of the nation is flying. But you need to also do it in a way that is not totally run by government.
So
because government doesn't even have that money to run. So, but what government can do is to provide the process, make the process transparent for the private sector to invest. I'm telling you, a lot of people want to invest. Once they find out that these are things that they can do, they have trust that is not fully owned by government, it's fine. But the other angle, the other people will tell you, no. National carrier is not what we should be doing. And rightly so.
Mr. Shadare, sorry to cut you short. I know you have a lot to say in that area.
Yeah.
You suggested that we should have national carrier, but it should be privately driven.
It's
I
privately
think that's
driven.
a summary of the answer to that question.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, we're talking about the national, the defunct Nigerian Airways.
Yes.
Have the retirees been fully paid their severance package?
One thing we will thank the current government for is that they've been able to pay 50% of what they owe former workers of Nigeria Airways. We remember that Nigeria Airways was liquidated in 2003.
Yep.
And that issue had been on for a very long time. And government come, government goes, and nothing has been done. But last year, the government was, I wouldn't say magnanimous, but because of the situation of things, that people before them didn't even consider it necessary to pay. The government paid 50% of, I think about 30 billion or 20-something billion naira to the former workers of
Nigeria Airways.
Yes, I was at the verification exercise. Is not something you wish for anybody. You saw people who came in crushes, former workers. You saw some that they brought in ambulances just to come and do their verification. These are people who work. My heart bleeds each time I remember what happened to ex-workers of Nigeria Airways, and nobody will want his parents or our parents to be treated.
Let me quickly ask this question.
Okay.
Because that is actually sympathetic.
Yeah.
Can we actually start a national carrier without paying these people?
Yes, you can't. You need to settle all labor-related issues. But thank God the federal government, I think I read it 2-3 days ago, that the government has promised to pay the 50% balance, to pay them up. And because the federal government is so serious about national carrier, I think they've gone far with it. But what we are saying and what we are pleading, let us not make the mistakes of the past. Let us see this airline as something that will represent the interest of all Nigerians, not just a set of people. Let it make it, these things are not, they are not rocket science now. If we want to float an airline, it's just like an adage in Yoruba that say, it takes somebody 20 years to practice madness. When is he going to do the madness now? So that is just the case we found ourselves, that whatever we need to do them transparently, truthfully, and for the interest of the country. It's not rocket science. You know, this Nigeria Air was, where the minister was trying to do it, and it was a flop.
Yes,
because it didn't carry the presidency along. It didn't carry Nigerians along. Nigerians didn't know what was happening.
So they still need to do a lot in that area.
They need to do a lot.
Now I want to ask another question, Mr. Shadare, on the concession of the airports.
Oh, yeah.
Would you argue for or against the concession of airports?
Just like the case of national carrier, is a very contentious issue.
Highly contentious.
Highly contentious.
Let's have your opinion.
My opinion, I
Yes.
say, is the right thing to do. I told you earlier on that I will never support government to be in charge of business because they've never run any business quite well. We can list them, but other people will argue that why are we talking about private sector? We have airlines like Emirates. We have airlines like Ethiopia that are fully run and very successful. But at the same time, we also need to look at airlines that are struggling, that are not successful, like South African Airways, Rwanda Air, and some other airlines that they are fully owned by government, but they are limping. They are almost there. They are money guzzling. In fact, they are even conduits for people to siphon money. But if it is if it's private sector driven, government doesn't need to put money. The airline will run itself. It will make money. It will work according to the budget and the plans it has. So and Nigeria is a very big market. We should be able to tap into it. It is so annoying to say that African Airlines, the market, aviation market share is controlled by airlines outside this country. Yes. Only 10% of the market are owned by African airlines. The big airlines come here and make all the money.
Okay, Mr. Shadare, thank you for that question. You rightly said that you argue for concession.
Yes.
Is the way to go.
It's the way to go.
This question is very, very relevant. The Nigerian aviation industry, do they deserve palliatives from government? If they do, what kind of palliatives would you recommend?
Thank you very much. I think they do. We shouldn't throw the baby away with the bathwater, in the sense that for a lot of people that have argued, they say, no, don't give them palliative, don't give them intervention. You won't blame them, because in 2008 or thereabout, about 120 billion naira was given to the airline, but they were able to access like 80 billion. I know of an airline chief of one of the biggest airlines in Nigeria then, I won't mention his name, but we know him, pocketed 35 billion naira out of that and bolted away.
Wow.
And these are taxpayers' money. That money hasn't been refunded. The airline has folded up. Many of them collected money. What has happened? Because what they do is that they divert this money into other interests, into other businesses. Many of them are not they don't even want to run a line. They just want to get the foreign exchange. They want to get loans. Because if you're an airline owner, I'm telling you, if you're walking down this street, you see a lot of people hailing you, even if you're not making money from that airline. But you can use it to leverage on other things. Like you can even use it to get chieftaincy title or marry more wives if you are the type that want to do that, because there's a lot of money, you have access to money. So most of them are into aviation, not because they want to be there. They are seeing it as an area where
they can make more money,
and you can launder money too. And a lot of people can set up airlines as conduit for other businesses. So for that, you will not even want government to give them money. But what we are saying is that government should give them and ensure that they monitor how these monies are disbursed. But at the same time, for those who are saying no, don't give them palliative, give them reduced charges for them. In aviation industry, you have about 35 charges or taxes levied on these airlines. How are they going to make money? The margin of the profit is so small that
okay. So what you recommend actually as palliative is for those taxes to be reduced.
To be reduced.
So some of those taxes to be reduced.
Because if you don't remove them, sir, and you give them money, you will still use them to pay that taxes, and the taxes are going back.
It's like giving them with right hand,
collecting.
from the other
So
hand.
what government should do is that help them. give them tax holiday for maybe 1 year for them to.
Okay, now let's quickly talk about, and this may be my last question before we wrap it up. We know Lagos Airport has opened, Abuja Airport has opened. For the benefit of our viewers, what are the other local airports that have?
Oh yeah. We have about 18 airports that have opened. We have Sokoto, we have Kano, we have Port Harcourt, we have Imo. Enugu Airport is still under construction, about 90% completed. We have other airports in, we have so many airports in this country that Kaduna has opened too. Meduguri, I mentioned Sokoto, I mentioned...
now you have mentioned quite a lot.
Yes, so I think about 18 of them
that are fully in operation. That is great.
Yes.
Because of time constraints, we may not be able to continue, Mr. Shadare. We want to thank you very much for coming on the show and for sharing your thoughts on the aviation sector in Nigeria. That is
thank you so
much we can take on the program for today. We want to thank you for watching. We want to also encourage you to go to our social media platform. The conversation actually continues on the social media platform. On Twitter and Instagram, we are at economy_Nigeria. And on Facebook, it's Nigeria's Economy Today. And you can watch this episode and the previous episodes on our YouTube channel, Nigeria's Economy Today. On behalf of my producer, we want to thank all our viewers from wherever you are watching. I want to ask you to join us again next week, same time, same station. I am Tunde Odeyemi. God bless Nigeria.